We're on the second to last lap of the Herbie Movie Derby. So, 15 years after the TV series ended, Disney decided to bring back everyone's favorite sentient car in the form of a remake movie that's also a sequel to the fourth movie. Yeah, can't wait to see how that works. A few other things to note before we actually begin is that this is so far the only Herbie movie to not be released to theaters. This was made for television, though was released on VHS throughout the US and Canada. And thus far, there hasn't been an official DVD or Blu-ray release of the movie, nor has Disney made it clear that they intend to anytime soon. Other than that, one noteworthy credit for this movie is that director Peyton Reed worked on it, and you may recognize him for his work on both MCU Ant-Man films. So that's promising. At least in terms of direction, but I know one guy we're looking forward to.
Groovy.
So let's see Ash Williams take on the world's trolliest car. This is the 1997 Love Bug movie.
It was a time of love. Love was everywhere. In our homes, in the streets, even in our cars, especially in one little car. He was known as Herbie, and he was amazing.
So amazing that I keep leaving him behind to people I don't really know, because I'm a terrible owner. Must run in the family though, because if this really is meant to take place after Goes Bananas, well, unless Paco has say in it, then it was most likely Pete who decided to give Herbie to someone else. Meet Simon Moore, played by John Hannah, who was also Jonathan from the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies. He'll be playing our villain, who is rude, mean, and might be British in this movie, despite the actor being Scottish. Is he our Thorndike for this movie?
I mean, I don't understand. I mean, this is the Jim Douglas car. It's the one you asked for. It's the one that won all those races.
Say, what were some of the lyrics for the TV show's opening?
And if the chips are down, you know we'll help you to the end. And Herbie's my best friend.
Well, whoever had him last, they were terrible friends. And yeah, it seems like Thorndike, he is a dirty cheater given that he brings up how he got demoted from Formula One racing for possibly cheating. In any case, he has Herbie taken to the junkyard. Meanwhile, we see that Bruce Campbell is playing our main human character, Hank Cooper, a mechanic who seems to have been a racer himself, but is down on his luck and has to work at a garage. But he's also kinda lazy, I think. Or he's so egotistical that he doesn't do enough around here.
Maybe now's a good time to stop giving me stuff. Here, Chuck. What, you've never seen a guy get hollered at before?
Hey, if it isn't the wage slave.
Knock it off, Roddy. Now, I know this shop is a joke. And I know the guys who work here are fools, including you, if you must know.
I don't have to know that.
Man, leaving S-Smart must have been the biggest mistake of his life after surviving the Middle Ages. He's told to enter some junk car race, because it might give their garage some notoriety, and of course Herbie is among the cars.
Number 3, come on down and see me.
How come no one's picking that one?
Because it's a piece of junk, Rod.
Yeah, but it's still the Jim Douglas car, and you could probably fine-tune it yourself. Isn't that the point of this race? Tune up your car, win, and keep it? You can literally own a piece of history! What are you thinking? Well, of course, Hank has to pick it because he has last choice. though he might have picked him anyway because his friend Roddy is like, "I've always hated getting picked last." As they get repairing, Herbie starts acting up like he's helping them fix him. Hank isn't too convinced, despite managing to get him working in time. Though Roddy is rather suspect. Time to meet the judges.
First, from Shot Specialty Autos, the master of the custom car, Mr. Johnny Shaw.
Oh, Frank?
Hey, you know me, buds, huh? Crazy.
Agreed. Simon is also judging, and we get our love interest of the movie, Alex, played by Alexandra Wentworth, who Hank appears to have dated once. Herbie, no doing that now. At least Alex can defend herself against jerk-offs like Simon. Race time, and it seems like Hank and Herbie are stalled. Seems that's it for them. But then... Now I'm not sure, due to the quality of the film, but that looked a bit like CGI. At least they're using outside shots for the view of the driver's seat more often. But yeah, they sweep the competition, which means he gets the car. Hank gets to interact with Simon, and sure enough, Hank was also in Formula Racing just like him.
Kind of fix it, then I went out and drove the snot out of it. Of course, that's probably when you recognized me.
Nope. Can't place it. Of course, you probably never won against me, did you?
Well, no.
Ah, well then there you have it. You see, I make it a point never to remember the names of those that I've trounced.
Well, I'm also good at fighting evil monsters. Yeah. And my sister fights mummies. Blow me. Alex is especially harsh on Hank for somehow being able to drive a broken down car.
All I know is your car shouldn't have been able to do what it did. Then again, it did it, so I don't know what's going on.
Sounds like we have a skeptic. So he convinces her to ride with him to see if he can prove he did what happened on the track. So in what I'm assuming is a retrend of that street race with the young couple, we have a dance-off? Okay, Herbie is known for doing all sorts of impossible stunts, but that's beyond him. He should not be able to break his frame like that just to do those tricks. At least the ones who are witnessing and experiencing Herbie are questioning that the car is doing things it shouldn't. They're still blaming Hank for some of his actions, but at least there's a little more suspicion on the car. Eventually, after Herbie gets them to a dead-end road, they exposit their previous relationship with each other.
So why are we here while you decided not to go out with me anymore? I mean, it didn't bug me much. I moved on with my life. I'd just like to know why.
All right. I didn't want to go out anymore because all you could talk about was racing.
That's it?
Yeah.
But you said you loved racing. You couldn't get enough of racing. Hell, you were a race driver.
Well, gee, isn't this kind of like the first movie, where Herbie locked the main couple inside just so they could bond? Granted, Jim and Carol's relationship was being built throughout the movie, and it was just the start of things. Here, these two are pretty much back together. Almost. So, another fast relationship to be sure. Meanwhile, Simon is trying to learn more about Herbie, and also another reason why this needs to be re-released. The picture is literally pixelating, and it just drags the scene down a peg. In any case, business is booming thanks to Hank. Roddy is acting like Tennessee and being the first one who believes Herbie is alive. Hank learns from his boss that Donnie Schatz, the weird car guy owner, made an offer to have him join his racing team. Also, Alex wants to put Herbie in her magazine because of the crazy tricks he's done.
An article on Herbie, I like it.
His name's Herbie. I like that.
I like how the crazy artist knows the car has a name. Go ahead, ask him.
How do you know?
He told me. And it's inscribed on a plate under his hood. I'm not deranged, you know.
No, of course not. Come on, Alex, let's go.
Well, aren't we going to take Herbie?
Oh, yeah. He needs to get out too, Hank.
Now, wait a minute. Hold it. It's a car, okay? It's not going to get mad if we don't invite it to join us.
He's not gonna be mad, but he is gonna be a little hurt.
I also just realized that Roddy is played by Kevin O'Connor, who was also Benny from the 1999 Mummy movie, just like John Hannah. That is strange that the role of good guy and bad guy are reversed here. So of course, Hank still doesn't believe in the living car and goes to an auto art show with Alex without Herbie. Roddy and Herbie sulk.
He doesn't mean it. He'll come around. You know what? You come with me. Yeah, you're definitely coming with me.
We're gonna raid a mummy's tomb! Nah, he puts him up at the art show where they were going.
I thought you liked the car.
I love Herbie. He's artistic counterpoint to make these awful things more tolerable. I mean, come on, man. Irony. It's the 90s, Hank boy.
What?
I'm sorry, but I just had to get out of that. I mean, sure, Roddy's one of my best friends, but sometimes, oh, he really bugs me.
You sure it's him, not Herbie?
Now, why would a car bug me?
Well, maybe he gets too much attention.
We don't have to be so observant, you know.
I guess this is the film's way of recreating Jim's jealousy of Herbie and vice versa? I don't know. Simon learns that they went to the art show and eventually heads over himself. In the meantime, Hank and Alex argue over how much of a sourpuss Hank is for not realizing how good the car is for him.
Oh, well, I feel all better now.
But why can't you accept that Herbie's, special?
Because Herbie isn't it, and it's a car.
That does wheelies.
Oh, yeah, of course, I had nothing to do with
That
it.
can jack itself up and down.
Yeah, sure, we all know Hank can't drive.
He can go over 100 miles an hour on
Oh,
four
yeah,
cylinders.
all Hank can do is crash.
Well, he's an amazing little car. Here's a little bit of information you might want to absorb. When something good comes your way, you should try to appreciate it, okay?
If it weren't for Bruce Campbell, this movie would be kind of a drag. We're like a half hour in and not much has happened. We've had only one race so far, and there's a lot of dialogue between characters, but it feels like that should have been the halfway point. It just seems like it's going by slowly is what I'm saying. But whatever. Simon gets inside Herbie and steals his key. Then, after confronting Hank, he tries to leave, gets hit, only to discover the nameplate that Roddy found that said Herbie's name, that mentions a Dr. Gustav Stumpfel. Yep, we're actually going to learn the origin of Herbie.
And so I got him. Presenting Dr. Gustav Stumpfel.
Dr. Stumpfel.
Yeah, that's me.
Grandpa Spencer from Stuart Little, what are you doing here?
Over 50 years ago, I was employed by my government to develop what was to be the simplest of cars. Simple to drive, even easier to maintain. A people's car, we came to call it. And though it was just the cutest little thing. But after the war...
Was I right to say that Herbie was some kind of secret Nazi experiment that escaped? Nope. Just a German scientist created him for the Americans, though they wanted him for a similar reason. Actually, what gets me is that he already made cars that were seemingly alive. I don't think it's the same in Herbie's case, because apparently part of it is due to the metal Gustav used to make Herbie. Plus one thing.
My most prized possession. A photo of my beloved Elsa fell into the mix. Now, I realize this is not very scientific, but I believe that the powerful feelings I had for her were somehow transmogrified into the metal itself, making it possible to create a living car.
So he literally just made his own Powerpuff car with that accident. Now I've seen it all. Now, unless this process was used on all the other cars we've seen come to life, there's no other reason for them to be alive except for Herbie. Well, regardless, knowing the Americans would use Herbie for evil, he set him free and would later learn that Jim Douglas had him. Now, even though Gustav seems to be against the idea of living cars for evil, Simon offers him an opportunity to make another living car using his own facility and tools, not knowing that Simon is clearly going to use them for evil. All Simon has of Herbie's original metal to use is the key he stole, and for the personality flavor, he would sneak in a photo of himself. Hank learns that Donnie was only hiring him to be a stunt driver at his little show, which upsets him since he thought he was racing for him, and that everyone thinks the car is doing everything for him.
He's got pride too, you know.
Oh, I like that. Now the car's got pride. I am out of here.
Out of here where, Hank?
I don't know and I don't care. Anywhere there isn't some stupid little car taking credit for everything I do.
You drove in one race. You took your ex-girlfriend out for a drive. You haven't done much of anything to get your ego up. If anything, you should be suspect of the car who does all his stunts for you. And really, the big difference between him and Jim is that when Jim drove Herbie, it was mostly stuff that seemed like normal car things. Most of the stuff that happened with Hank and Herbie are tricks that no VW can do. Anyway, because of Simon's meddling, the car that got created turned out wrong. And well, it's time to meet the best thing this movie has. Meet Horace the Hate Bug. He is the exact opposite of Herbie, in which he is built to hate and destroy. As we'll all soon see, he is the one thing that saves this movie for me. Hank comes back to the garage, only for Herbie to be gone. Roddy tries once again to convince him that Herbie was alive, but with feeling.
This is real. Think about it. The wheelies, the locked doors. Heck, driving me home last night. Think about it, Hank. He's alive.
Nobody would believe I made the car do what it did because he did it. He is alive, isn't he?
It took the emotions of a beat-up friend to convince another that his best friend, the car, is alive. So as Hank resolves to find Herbie, Herbie is out looking for Hank, while honking too. This is kind of the opposite of the downer scene in the original, where Herbie was trying to get away from Jim due to being depressed. But there is a downer moment to be had.
Sorry, little car. It's the end of the road.
Damn! Herbie just got freaking wrecked by his evil counterpart! I'd say this was unnecessarily dark, except this movie hasn't been all that funny to begin with, so it kinda works here. I'm just amazed Horace did all this to Herbie, and he's still alive! Well, not for long, as Hank comes to accept that he made this happen because he didn't believe in Herbie. He seemingly dies, and they give him a funeral? I did say this wasn't a funny movie, right? Because that's just silly. Gustav arrives with Jim Douglas, still played by Dean Jones. He asks to see what's left of Herbie, and it seems Gustav can rebuild him with Chuck's equipment. They would have to use all of Herbie's parts for this, since he would lose his essence otherwise. So, Hank decides to ask Donnie for help, despite yelling at him earlier. As long as he can pay him, that's all that matters to him. Prior to working, Jim talks with Hank and Alex about his experience with Herbie, which is a decent way of using him, at least.
That's probably what he's best at, understanding. That and soaking up the personality of his owner, then giving it back to him.
I'm not exactly following you.
Well, he becomes like his owner. and then helps them get what they need.
So, it wasn't Herbie that whipped out to that secluded spot and locked the doors and all that. It was you, trying to get me alone.
Me? No, it was the car.
Herbie did that to me, too. That's how I met my wife.
Your first wife, anyway. Don't forget, you and Carol apparently left each other without anyone knowing. After a long night of work, Herbie is fully rebuilt. Just a matter of testing him out, and Hank lets Jim start him up. I do love how they shoot this, and the sort of dramatic feel in waiting to see if Herbie is really back now that Jim is here is really good. It's the sort of moment that reminds you of an old bond that lasted all this time, despite, well, you know. And if it weren't for that earlier problem of Jim leaving Herbie a lot, this would also be a good moment of departure. For real, though.
It's time for me to go.
But what if we need your help?
If you have any other questions, ask Herbie.
This is what the fourth movie was missing. An actual passing of the torch sort of deal. One racer passing on their car to another like it means something. This is at least another aspect this movie does right. Actually establishing a new bond while being introduced from the old one. Either way, we have a half hour left, and right now, Horace is getting antsy and wants to go outside, which Simon is more than happy to, and sees just how fast Horace can go. Apparently, Horace has anti-Herbie senses and finds him at the garage. Gustav tells Roddy about what he did and how he needs to find the original blueprints to prevent such a thing from happening ever again. So, what's Simon going to do now that he's here?
Come to offer you a chance to redeem yourself, Cooper.
Redeem myself how?
By racing again. Against my little car.
I was wondering when we'd get another race. So yeah, winner gets both cars. Not like they'd get along, but whatever. Hank takes up the chance to race against what's essentially a deadite car. Joining Hank are Alex and Roddy, of course. And they'll be racing on the Golden State Highway. According to IMDb, it used to be part of Highway 99 until 1968, where it got mostly flooded. This road is also mostly used for other Hollywood movies, and was reportedly one of the roads James Dean was on the day of his death. A highway where one of the youngest known Hollywood actors died? That sounds like the perfect place for a death race! I would say it's lame that the big race of this movie was only between two cars, but then again, that was kind of what the first movie was regardless of how many people were present. Either way, it's time to see if the former racer, who hasn't really raced in forever, has what it takes to defeat an evil deadite car.
On 3, 1, 2, 3. Go, Herbie! Go! Go!
They're all gonna die.
Well, thanks for that level of confidence. At first, it's just mostly rubber banding between the two cars. Can't say there's much of anything.
Hang on.
Amazing. They actually made Horace make an angry face. If only for a brief moment. But that's not all he does. Soon, after a little bump off, Simon reveals some modifications he made to Horace to make him even more evil. Like rims that can puncture tires, which he does, and it even causes Hank to be unsure of himself till he asks Herbie for help. And then, after they get back in the race, we see Horace has frickin' grenades!
Grenades?
He's not trying to beat us, he's trying to kill us.
Of course. Don't you get it? He has to get rid of Herbie. This isn't just a road race to him. It's a duel between good and evil, love and hate. And as long as love is around, hate can never rule. But if hate were to win, we have to beat him. That's all.
Why weren't you the main character? And perhaps the most insane modification yet. Freaking laser beam!
That.
Yes, he is seriously beaming Herbie from behind with a freaking laser. This little deadite car is so crazy that it literally slices Herbie in half. And by the way, unlike the first movie where you could probably believe Herbie survives losing his lower half, this should have killed him since his engine, and or what constitutes for his brain, should have been cut in two. It took until Horace to make this movie worth it, because as cartoonish as it's really become, I freaking love Horace. I want this movie remastered for Blu-ray or something. The world must know of Horace and his evil deeds. He would look so good in better quality. I mean it. Look how freaking cool he looks. He's so custom made. I love it. Anyway, in another bit from the first movie, we have the scene where Herbie wins with only a part of him. Only it makes less sense given how it happens. First, it's revealed that Alex called people to see the end of the race, which gets Simon to slow down a bit to ask her about this, and then...
Yanks never give up.
No, we don't!
Now how the hell is that happening? Herbie should have ceased function the minute he got sliced. But yes, Roddy is the one whose half wins it for him because he was somehow faster than Horace. As they celebrate, Horace makes his angry face again and goes after them. However... and thus Horace descended to hell, where he rightfully belongs. Simon gets arrested for his car going berserk. Chuck is still stuck in his car trying to get it to work again. Hank and Alex are implied to be going out together again, and they manage to rebuild Herbie! Again!
Hey, Alex, what are you gonna call this article?
I don't know. I was thinking about the love bug.
She said it! So, that was the love bug. Again, I definitely liked this one more than the fourth movie, but it's definitely no first movie either. I mean, a lot of the story concepts are there, it has a decent cast, and the horror segments are pure joy. But it really should have tried being an actual sequel rather than rehash parts of the original film. With how Horace functioned, they should have gone like James Bond themed or something if they were going to have a battle between a good car and an evil one. With how it's paced, some of the character development with Hank drags on with how jerky he is, and he doesn't get to do a lot of racing except at the beginning and last half of the film. I actually found Roddy to be more sympathetic given his lines of dialogue than Hank himself. Now while they do make use of a lot of CGI, they at least try more practical stunts and different angles for the driving scenes, so it's not an obvious chroma key scene. They do take some extra measures for some of the darker aspects of the movie, and Herbie is just as proactive in how he talks as he was last movie. I'm at least glad for that, and for them acknowledging Jim passing on his faithful car to someone else, even though that's about to be irrelevant soon. It's not a spectacular return for Herbie, but I still wish they could have re-released this so we have better quality. It deserves that much over the fourth movie, which was disappointing in what it accomplished. This one at least has Bruce Campbell and an angry, frowning car that hates everyone. Definitely worth seeing at least once, but I'll stick with the first two movies for my Herbie fix. Now I'm sure a lot of you want me to talk about some of the other things Herbie was in, either within media or outside it, but I think I'll save that until the very end of the next video, and I'm hoping that with the final movie, they'll be able to recreate some of that old magic. We'll find out when we see Herbie Fully Loaded.
Vocal percussion on a whole nother level, coming from my mind. Vocal percussion on a whole nother level, coming from my mind.